Today I'm talking about my favorite societal failing, incels. But also the same thing I did in my last video because it's a two-parter.
You get one chance at love, and if you screw that up, you're gonna be alone forever.
So just a quick recap. 100-odd years ago, Kellogg and other popular scientists attributed a bizarre list of symptoms to masturbation. Things like sleeplessness, depression, irritability, insanity, and being easily frightened. And other than the obviously falsely attributed symptoms, such as undeveloped breasts, are most of these not the symptoms of a child racked by guilt, fear, and paranoia of a culture that thinks their inherent existence is depraved? Remember, Kellogg said just that man is inherently depraved. Michael Patton submitted a research article in 1986 that connected all these dots. That modern societies ingrained these archaic religious beliefs, leading small children to learn shame, fear, anger, depression, and disgust as cultural reactions to their early experience of masturbation. He found that society's repulsion to their natural desires caused tremendous suffering and damage in those individuals, and destroyed their possibility for human affection, trust, and communication. It wasn't until sometime between World War I and World War II that psychologists started to accept that the cultural guilt and condemnation of sexuality was the root cause for the dysfunction and paranoia in male and female masturbators. Depression and suicide plagued many who could not cope with the guilt. But even in the 60s, 1 in 5 of all men and women still considered masturbating a sin. We might be a lot more progressive now in 2020, but old cultural stigmas have a weird way of shaping into a new problem. Men still seem to be thought of, even if subconsciously, as how Kellogg saw them, as naturally depraved because of their natural impulses. He warned to be wary of all the evil little boys, that genders must be separated, as women want love and men just want sex. To give more validity to this, let's jump to a story from This American Life. Griffin Hansbury was a young woman in college when she had a revelation that she was meant to be a he. Griffin felt he had to change his body and began the transition with hormone therapy. Before testosterone, Griffin described his thoughts towards women as a narrative. I would see a woman on the subway and I would think, she's attractive, I'd like to meet her. What's that book she's reading? I could talk to her. But Griffin noticed a dramatic change after giving testosterone. After testosterone, there was no narrative. There was no language whatsoever. I would see a woman who was attractive or not attractive, and that was enough to basically just flood my mind with aggressive pornographic images, just one after another, and I couldn't turn it off. See, Griffin was suddenly feeling what many teenage boys do, but are conditioned to be ashamed of. He went on, I felt like a monster a lot of the time, and it made me understand men. It made me understand adolescent boys a lot. Griffin goes on to recount a time he was walking behind a female in a short skirt and couldn't stop staring at her behind. He tried to reason with himself that he was a feminist, that he had despised this type of behavior, and yet no matter all his muster, he couldn't help himself from stealing glances. So is Griffin now one of the depraved? The vaguely hidden cultural disgust of testosterone is compounded by America's ever-lengthening childhood. When historically boys would be entering adulthood, getting to freely experiment with their sexuality as they have throughout most of human existence, instead they're entering middle school, possibly remaining a child for another decade. High schools nor colleges give enough autonomy to allow students to be adults. Americans, for the most part, are disgusted with the idea of their children exploring their sexuality, often reciting the tired phrase of,
"Not while you're living under my roof."
But this is a problem. Just because sex makes your Judeo-Christian soul cringe, that doesn't mean the hormones are going to go away. In Holland, masturbation, safe sex, and homosexuality are all openly educated in schools. And in 2003, of kids aged 15 to 17, they found that 2/3 were allowed to spend the night with their girlfriend or boyfriend in their parents' home, in their bedroom. And what did all this result in? Well, there are about 8 times fewer teen mothers in Holland than the USA. And when surveyed about losing their virginity, 86% of women and 93% of men said they were both equally eager to have sex. Which kinda disproves the whole women just out for love and men just out for sex thing. America is caught in this weird contradiction. It's trying to keep sexually mature, hormone-filled adolescents coddled, trying to keep them children for decades, while at the same time constantly teasing and enticing them with sex through culture and media. The amount of sexuality exposed to adolescents or even younger children is pretty obscene if your goal is abstinence only. From TikTok to Instagram to really sexually overt music artists, why is America trying the sex sells tactic on children? In The Weaponized Loser by Stephen Asma, which will be my sole source going forward, he states that in the contemporary West, natural sexual frustration is intensified by a culture that throws sex in your face at every turn, reminding you that you're not getting any. And this builds resentment, especially from young males who are bursting with hormones, but already suffering from self-loathing because socially, their desires are depraved. If the only socially respectable way out of this predicament is to get a girlfriend, and you are, well, unappealing, then this resentment grows when you see others achieving what you couldn't. It feels like a sort of humiliation. To see this blatant unfairness prompts thoughts such as, why does he get a girl? And it starts driving them into obsession. Humans have an inherent understanding and desire for fairness, equality. It's this desire that fuels them, and they feel someone's gotta pay for the injustice. Instead of taking their anger out on the societal construct that spawned their torment, they direct it at lowering the men enjoying female companionship, or at the females they feel are withholding sex and humiliating them. This is why, of the 129 shootings in the US, all but 3 were men, and were socially alienated and often virgins. Christopher Harper Mercer wrote before his rampage, "I'm going to die friendless, girlfriendless, and a virgin." And Elliot Rogers uploaded several videos that ranted about his mounting frustration as to why girls don't like him. Some incels can channel their rage into sports or video games, but even one misguided incel can cause unspeakable harm. Is there any surprise that sexually repressed young jihads are recruited by promising them 40 virgins in the afterlife? Sexually repressing children and demonizing the feelings of young boys seems to far too often breed terrorism. As Asma concluded in his paper, this won't go away by talking about it. No lecture about the brain or a sermon about Jesus is going to steer these kids in the right direction. Their emotions need to be channeled, and I for one think the simplest answer is the correct answer. Hormones occur at that age for a reason. If only America could follow in the footsteps of the Dutch, I think we'd be taking a good step towards keeping everyone safer and happier. Or we could go for the more complicated solution and destigmatize self-pollution. Whether that's through using high-tech sex robots or fleshlights or just by using your hand, there's no need for anyone to feel humiliated for not being able to have intercourse. And before you think this isn't a problem that needs solving at all, know that sexual frustration can cause such immense psychological distress that even Kellogg had to concede. No observing person can doubt that the sexual relations of men and women determine in a great degree their happiness or misery in life. So even if you don't have someone to love, don't be afraid to lend yourself a hand.